Strategic media and public relations is bringing together dynamic companies, investors, and consumers like no one before. And we're doing it in a unique way while addressing the big changes underway in our world. Our world is fraught with both peril and opportunity. The world is changing. Long-term conflicts are shaping up over commodities, currencies, and influence. Political lines are shifting. Yet mankind moves on to meet the needs of a growing world. Newer, cleaner energy, medical breakthroughs, ways to better our lives, better ways to move into the future. Join us now for today's topic.
Welcome back. Chris Temple back here with you, and also back here with you is my old buddy James Anderson, the CEO of Guanajuato Silver, which we sometimes call G Silver to avoid the tongue twister. James, welcome.
Thanks very much. Tongue twisters in hand.
Yeah. Hey, you and I got to visit with one another a few weeks ago when we crossed paths in our nation's capital down here in the U.S. in Washington, and you told me keep your eyes out for the first quarter. We'll want to do another update again, and here we are. And it was a very nice first quarter. As Guanajuato Silver continues to grow, you logged for your several-year-old life now both record production and record revenue. So congratulations!
Thank you very much. We've done that. I think that the company is being built on stronger and stronger foundations. Also detailed in our first quarter are continued lower costs, production costs for silver equivalent production, both on an all-in sustaining cost basis and on a cash cost basis. We drove costs down by about 6% quarter over quarter, and you can expect to see continued movements like that in the future.
That's cool. And of course, that is as you've optimized several operational things that you and I have talked about in recent months. So obviously it's halfway through, or 2/3 of the way almost through the calendar second quarter. But can you give us kind of like a little bit of color without divulging anything you're not supposed to, as far as how things have continued to progress?
Right. Well, from 25,000 feet, I mean, let me just say again, what we've purchased here: 4 mines, 3 production facilities. We've purchased them for pennies on the dollar. We've got great rates for that, great pricing. What we have bought, though, are fixer-uppers. And these mines were not invested in for a number of years by their previous owners, and it's fallen to us to reinvest that money. And in a time frame, and I'm going to say, let's say from a couple months ago until, let's say, 3 years ago, well, in a time frame where precious metals were out of vogue, the precious metals prices were down generally, and so it's been difficult to raise the capital necessary to really put these back into production. So the step-by-step lowering of our production costs, as well as the ramp up of production quarter over quarter, that continues. And I can talk specifically about what we're doing now with the new equity money that we've raised in terms of specific Capex projects to carry that on.
Well, as far as the Capex is concerned, you mentioned the fixer-uppers. You did reduce the quarterly loss, for accounting purposes, but there still is a quarterly loss there because you're having to put a lot of money into projects, but things are looking in the right direction. So on that subject, James, what are the next steps? I mean, certainly metals prices have got to continue to cooperate. We hope that you've got a better metals price environment than you've had so far in your life, and whether it goes up in a straight line or ratchets higher, in my view, is going to do either one or the other, probably more ratchet higher. But what other steps need to be taken to be able to optimize this? Do you have, with any of the projects, any visibility as far as when they're going to require less additional money to be put in, and it's going to be, in relative terms, at least more gravy down the road?
Yeah, let's talk about the metals prices in a minute. Let's focus on, I'll give you 3 examples of projects that we have the money right now and that we're driving forward to completion, which will have an immediate effect on costs, on production numbers. We are installing an ore sorting machine at our San Ignacio mine. San Ignacio has about 15 years worth of waste in a giant size waste pile. Well, within that, there is some vein material that was left over. We have been hand sorting some of that over the last several months. What we'll be doing is doing this in a much more 21st century kind of fashion, putting all of that material through an ore sorting machine that's built in China and being exported to Mexico. And we should have installed, we'll be spending June installing the machine, and it should be operational in July. And what that will be able to do is to take a bunch of material, both from fresh material from in the mine and surface material, and pre-concentrate it before we truck the material 25 kilometers to put it through our flotation plant. So in that way, we'll be using much less diesel fuel to send the same ounces of silver and gold that 25 kilometers. We'll be using less processing time and money processing material, because we'll be processing less material because it'll be higher grade. So that should have an immediate impact on costs and production.
Well, that's cool. So in effect, then you're kind of high grading the stuff that you have been trucking to some extent to weed out what more notably the stuff that doesn't carry any significant grades.
That's exactly right. I like to use the term pre-concentrated. So
Okay.
rather than taking all of the ore, and including dilution, including some of the waste and sending it off to for processing, we'll be pre-concentrating that material and then sending it off to the flotation plant.
Nice. So that's going to be, all else being equal, a significant boost. You're running better material, higher grade material, spending less money. What other projects are we going to be looking at?
So you'll remember, I've talked over the last 18 months or so about us putting Falcon concentrators
Yes.
on the front end of our processing system. And the epithermal systems in Guanajuato, they have a fair bit of free gold. People never talk about free silver, but what it is electrum, which is silver and gold molecularly combined. That exists in some of the epithermal material, and it's difficult to extract in a flotation system. So what we had done is put on a Falcon concentrator, which is, it's thousands of years old technology. It's really a fancy new way of doing panning for gold, but you get some of the free gold out in a separate concentrate. So that's been working well for us. However, we continue to do all kinds of tests with our material. We've got a fantastic metallurgical department that continues to test and come up with different ideas. What we've installed at our Valenciana plant, at the Cata plant at Valenciana, is a flash flotation system and a flash flotation cell before the material goes into regular flotation. And I hope I'm not boring people with metallurgy here, but it has the effect of getting about approximately an extra 2.5 or 3%, even more recovery than what we were getting from the Falcon concentrators. So we built one, we've installed it, it's working great, sort of just as advertised. So we will install 2 more of these. That'll be full capacity for us at the Cata plant. That should be done by the end of June. And so we should have, very quickly, higher recoveries from all the material there. We'll then do exactly the same thing at our El Cubo plant. One other thing that we're investing money in is the plant at our mine in Durango at Topia. The plant is old, right? Like it's 40 years old, and it's been needing upgrades ever since we bought it. But money's been tight. However, we've got enough money right now to put in a new filtration system. And what that will mean, rather than us sending lead and zinc concentrates of a certain percentage, it will up the percentage, it'll increase recoveries, and really without having to find new veins or anything special geologically. These are upgrades that can have an immediate effect on costs and on production.
Nice. Well, this is a reminder, folks, that the mining business, even though a lot of stories are fluff but have little substance, it is a business, and there's a lot of different moving parts. And no, James, you explained very well, especially with an analogy to gold panning, which some people have seen. It's all a matter of gravity and separating the heaviest stuff and what you need out. There's just more technologically advanced and sophisticated ways to do it. That's great. So operationally, things are going well, which is good news. Hopefully the less money down the road, once you get all of these improvements done, goes in and you're getting more money out. That takes us back for just a second to metal prices. Of course, you reported as well that your realized prices for gold and silver were as high as they've been since you put G Silver together. We know that gold has hit a nominal record. Silver in the recent past went above $30 for the first time in a dozen years, or thereabouts. Most people who are bullish on the metals, you and I included, believe we're going to see higher prices down the road, although again, we may not get there in a straight line. What's your general sense, and maybe not just from G Silver's standpoint, James, but your regional peers as well, people that you deal with, who you sell your concentrate to, and of course, for concentrate, you're dealing with a little bit of lead and zinc as well. What are they seeing? Is the mood upbeat, that people recognize that this move is for real?
Well, I think so. I mean, it's a very opaque business. After we send our concentrates to Manzanillo and sell them to Ocean Partners, which is our preferred metals trader. After that, we kind of dust our hands off, and the concentrates go wherever they're going to go, and they're turned into gold and silver. I guess my view is this. Let me start with the prices. The prices change so fast. It's never ceased to amaze me how humans can get used to new circumstances so quickly. It was only last October when silver traded with an $18 handle, right? And I can tell you, our business does not work well, Chris, at $18, right? The difference for us between, let's say, 22 and 26 or 27 is enormous. Right, at 22, we're barely making enough money to pay off all the bills and expand. 27, we've got enough money to reinvest in the business, feel good about ourselves. At 30, now we can start, repaying some of the debt that the company has. We did that. We put out a news release earlier this week as well, repaying a $5 million loan facility from Ocean Partners. So, the difference to our company, to a highly levered silver mining company, is enormous. With regards to the prices of the metals, a couple of different comments from me, a couple of different observations from me. First of all, I think all of your listeners understand, the idea behind gold and silver as being a store of value. It's a store of value that's outside of the banking system, outside of the currency destruction, which treasuries and central banks, not only in the United States, but all over the world, are participating in. And so it makes sense, I think, to everybody that the price of gold and silver have been moving higher. One thing about the big gold mining stocks, and I think about Barrick in particular, and I look at these in Canadian dollars, so forgive me, but Barrick was about $36 18 months ago. It's only $24 today, despite the fact that gold is at all-time highs. So why is that? I believe that it's because the market senses that maybe the prices aren't actually high enough yet, that the input costs due to rampant inflation, never mind this 3, 4, 5% that the government's talking about. I think we all know that industrial inflation is way higher than that. So I think that the market is sensing that, well, no, gold is not quite high enough yet to really drive the price of the shares of the major mining companies higher. Moreover, I think that silver is different. The reason why I wanted to focus on silver as a precious metal company that is very silvery and very silver centric is because of the dual nature of silver as that poor man's gold, but also the industrial nature of silver. Currently, 16% of all the silver that gets mined in the world today has to be used in photovoltaics to make solar panels. So if we are believers in energy transition and solar energy as a part of that, and whether you believe it or not, the governments believe it, and the governments continue to provide subsidies and out-and-out grants for people to build that. That's not stopping anytime soon. There's already a 200 million ounce supply deficit per year for silver. And I think that that only gets wider. So I've been saying for some time that gold could stay where it's at and silver go from, let's say $23 to $33. And there not really be a response from the mining industry, which gets most of its silver as byproduct from other metals. So I think silver can maintain this trajectory. I think we can have silver. It's about $30 today. I think silver can be $5, $6, $7, $8 higher, and there still be no supply response.
Well, I think you're right, and you especially make a strong point, James. And the last two conferences, the one I was at when you and I met in Washington a few weeks ago, and then I just came from the SME conference in New York, and more aptly subtitled "Critical Trends in Mining Finance." And a big part of the discussion there was not silver and gold so much, silver perhaps because of its role as a energy transition metal for solar panels and things, but in talking about copper and nickel and lithium and other things, between the blowout in costs for labor, which is in short supply, for energy, for all of the inputs to build a mine, to maintain it and stuff like that, across the board, there's going to need to be much higher prices. Otherwise, we're running into a wall. And it's not just running into a wall with this, but running into a wall with building infrastructure, new and renewed alike, and et cetera, et cetera. So, folks, this is just the beginnings of a move higher that's going to be a tag team type of thing as costs rise, and that makes supplies less plentiful. It's going to require ever higher prices to get these things to market. And a lot of people, I think, have not woke up to this yet. And, you're going to be sitting in a pretty good spot. Yes, costs are going up, but the metal prices are going to have to go up further just to keep things on an even keel. So it'll be interesting to watch, of course, as the quarters and the years go by. Let's shift gears just a little bit and catch me first, though, if there's any other operational thing that we want to catch up on. I want to talk about the, among other things, as we wind down the upcoming elections down there.
Sure, let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's just another couple of weeks or so away as we're recording this, just starting to head into our 3-day spring weekend here. Canada had theirs last week.
That's right.
Of course, but we got a couple of weeks before the Mexican election, and the polls still show Claudia Sheinbaum as the likely victor. And what do you see, if anything, really relevant? We've talked about this before when we've discussed it, and it doesn't seem like there's anything that's overly dramatic in store from her that's going to change your industry necessarily one way or the other.
So I guess the my answer to all that is I don't know. Let me start with let me start with the polls for one thing, because I think you and me probably look at the same polls showing Ms. Sheinbaum 20 points ahead, has been for months and months and months. Well, I just got back from Mexico. I visited all of our operations in the last 10 days or so. So underground at all 4 operations, and visited all the plants and saw all the Capex spending and all the projects and stuff like that. But I had the opportunity to talk with one of our directors, Ramon Davila, about that, and the points of the election were, we talked about that. But he said, well, James, you're not looking at the right polls. The polls that are distributed in that way are manipulated. The bigger parties, and especially the party in power, the Morena party, it kind of manipulates those and pays a few people. And he showed me other polls, which he believes more strongly, showing a much tighter race. So it might be a lot tighter race having Xochitl Galvez a lot closer to Miss Scheinbaum than maybe some people think. I was having breakfast in Guanajuato this last Sunday, and all of a sudden, I heard like some noise and some chanting and singing in a particularly Mexican kind of way. There was a big parade, like a political parade for Xochitl. And so, and on that day, so Guanajuato is a small center, but on that day, there were 1 million people who marched in Mexico City in favor of Xochitl, the opposition leader. So there's, it might be more nuanced. It might be a little more dramatic than people think. Come, counting the votes time. Hard to say. No matter which way, right? We've got two female candidates leading the way. So no matter what happens here, Mexico will have its first female president. And I think that's really important. I think it's important for Mexico. I think it's important for the world. And how that, that subtlety, it is different. And how that, transpires will be interesting. Now, what that means for the mining industry, I don't know. I don't know. Xochitl, I think, is seen as being more mining friendly, more business friendly. But I think that Ms. Scheinbaum is a more mainstream politician than AMLO. So hopefully, either way, we have just a little bit better interface with the Mexican government.
Well, we'll see what happens. Some of the things that I have read independently discuss that very same thing, that AMLO has been a lot more flamboyant, a lot more caustic. She is more of a technocrat and pragmatist, and at least in relative terms, that wants to get things done for the country. So, well, we'll see if her opponent late in the day gets to hold up Mexico's modern day version of a Dewey defeats Truman sign that we had here in 1948 and says, not so fast.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
Well, upsets still happen in the political
They
world.
can.
This could be one.
Yeah. Yeah, they certainly can. Well, lastly, folks, as a reminder, we want to remind you of a couple of things. First of all, if you've not done it before, if you haven't done it recently, go back a few months back toward the beginning of this year for a lot deeper dive into the background of all the different projects that Guanajuato Silver has when James and I first spoke here on our particular channel. Make sure you visit their website as well, sign up for their updates. One of the things that you will see there that we also want to remind you of is that G Silver has a bullion store. It's still not legal, at least in the US of A, for a mining company to produce its own gold and sell it. But silver companies can and do that in the US and elsewhere. It's easier, it's more cost effective. You don't have as high a price point for people that want that kind of a coin. And here you see that Guanajuato Silver has its own logo and its own coins that you can buy. And, Father's Day is coming up. I can give my own children and grandchildren a hint, and I'll give them the website. But rather than a tie or a new pair of slippers, buy an ounce or 2 or 10 of silver for dear old dad or granddad. And while you're at it, so that he's properly attired when he goes to the country club or to the bar or wherever it may be. And I love this, and hats off. I've got to use the play on words to you guys, James, for coming up with this idea. I've not seen anybody else do it yet. I'm waiting to see somebody do a gold one, but you guys came out with your own MAGA hat, except you've got to put a great big asterisk next to that. And that's actually, of course, as you see from the what do they call it? Not the atomic symbol, but what is it for gold? The AG. What's the technical term for that? Periodic table. The periodic
table. I think it is the atomic symbol.
Yeah, the periodic table. The atomic symbol for silver is AG. So make silver great again. Make sure you get a hat for dad or granddad too while you're there.
Yeah, for sure. We're very proud of the bullion store. The coins that we sell, I think, are beautiful.
Yeah.
It has the Guanajuato Silver logo on there. The two triangles, you know, I'm not sure if we've ever talked about this, Chris, but it was actually my nephew that designed all of the logo and stuff for Guanajuato Silver.
Oh,
And
cool.
the two triangles are an ancient alchemy symbol for silver. And, you know, we think that that's pretty cool. The coins are beautiful. You can get 10-ounce bars on the bullion store itself. That's beautiful. You know, gold is gold, but it's silver that has always been money. And in fact, in many languages in the world, the word for silver and the word for money is the same. Argent in French, that is money and that is silver. You know, what is the British currency? Well, it is sterling. Thanks very much.
Right.
You know, there's many other examples of that. So I think that we're in an era where people will again look at silver and say, yeah, that's money, and it comes in a size and a form that you can actually transact business with it. If you're walking around with a couple of ounces of gold, you know, more difficult. But nonetheless, with a couple of ounces of silver in your pocket. As a matter of fact, I mean, up until in Canada, it was 1967. Where the government took out all of the silver from circulation, but it's not that long ago.
No, here in the U.S. it was 64.
64. So all of the dollars, half dollars, quarters, dimes, all of them had about 80% actual silver because people demanded that the coins that we had actually had something of value in them. Right. So I think that we may well be returning to a time where people appreciate the fact that that there is something valuable within the coins themselves.
Yeah. Well, they are beautiful coins, and some of the stuff that we've been doing on social media for G Silver, we've been making the silver coins available. There's the hat that James is modeling. We've got some of the hats available now on our social channels and campaigns. And I need to get mine. I don't have my hat yet. I need to get one of those. So anyway, folks, make sure that you make use of the bullion store and the hat store and everything else. And more important, even keep in touch with Guanajuato Silver. If you believe, as we do, in the longer term bull market for metals, this is a really well-run, well-built company, not without challenges in its early years, but things are heading in the right direction. And I'll tell you what, knowing James for a long time, you couldn't have a better guy in charge. So James, thanks for your time today. And folks, we'll be with you again soon.
Those words are very kind. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. Make silver great again.
We hope you got a lot out of today's subject. Make sure you avail yourself of the resources and contacts offered today. Subscribe to this channel for future topics and opportunities. And if you have any questions, drop us a line. Thanks for tuning in.